This is a very special moment. I am honored and I am humbled. I am sitting here with the leader of the Ahmadi religion of peace and light, the riser from the family Muhammad, Abu Sadiq Abdullah Hashim, the author of this book, The Holy Gospel, Goal of the Wise, the reason for the persecution of over 100 members of the Ahmadi religion of peace and light, who yesterday went to the Turkish border with Bulgaria at the Kapakul border and were faced with extreme violence from the Turkish border police when all they were doing was seeking their asylum for the right to life in Bulgaria. What are your thoughts of what took place yesterday on the Turkish border?
So, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الأئمة المهديين والسلام تسليما. So basically this whole situation, it started a while back, as you know, and that was with the believers in Algeria and in Iran and Iraq and several other countries beginning to face persecution in their countries simply for being believers. The Algerians, they were arrested, they were sentenced to jail, charged with various charges that included blasphemy and offending the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and other charges without even the authorities understanding or taking the time to understand our beliefs. It became clear that the Algerians, the Iranians, the Iraqis, the Thai, the Jordanians, the believers in these countries were unable to practice their faith, right? And all countries around the world, and the United Nations has also stated that it is a human right, it's a basic human right that an individual has the freedom of thought, expression, and religion.
Yes.
So after Amnesty International got involved and wrote some press releases about the Ansar in Algeria, and after the Ansar were arrested in Iran, and basically they were facing possible death sentences. They were beaten, they were tortured. Europe's largest human rights organization, Human Rights Without Frontiers, got involved. They covered the story. We made a lot of noise about it. And the Iranian believers that were out of jail, not all of them, but some of them, were able to flee, and some of them that were out on bail managed to flee. And so they literally marched through the snow and walked on foot through the mountains in order to attempt to go into Turkey. Their family members who were believers who were not arrested, they flew into Turkey. The reason why believers started to gather into Turkey was because Turkey was the country that most of these people could actually have access to. They could get visas to. And so there were some believers in Turkey that were over there, but they were believing undercover, not in the open, because they also feared the backlash of the government over there. And so they all just gathered together and began to help one another in gathering and creating a small community with the purpose and the goal of seeking asylum in a free country.
Yes.
And since the European Union and the United States and the West has framed itself as being the leading human rights protectors and advocates, and that they are the light of freedom and democracy around the world, and naturally the goal of these believers was to seek asylum in the closest free country that they can gain entry to. They did not, however, want to break any laws. They didn't want to offend anybody. They didn't want to reflect bad on the dawah or the call. And so they decided that, since it is illegal, that they basically enter into any of the countries through smuggling, since it is illegal to cut the fences and crawl through, that the best thing that they should do is to submit themselves at the border to the border police and claim asylum. We sought the advice of lawyers. We contacted human rights organizations. a letter was drafted to the Bulgarian border police and also to the Turkish border police. So we addressed the Turks and the Bulgarians. And the believers requested asylum with the backing of 28 European and American human rights organizations and bodies. They all signed it, saying that we admit and we recognize that the followers of the Ahmadi religion of peace and light are in danger. We recognize that the followers of the Ahmadi religion of peace and light have a right to apply for asylum in a peaceful way by submitting a request to the border police in Bulgaria. And so the believers felt confident. They felt that these countries that respected human rights would naturally respect the law. They intended that together, 103 elderly men, women, and children would walk up to the border, present the letter, quote the laws, present the articles from Amnesty and Human Rights Without Frontiers and the other organizations that had all written articles about how badly they were oppressed. They would present the proofs, the letters that they had from their home countries, the documentation that proved, whether it was video of armed assaults, violent assaults by militias, or the images of them and hospital reports from their heads being cracked open simply for being believers. And that would hopefully be enough for them to cross over to the Bulgarian side. And once they reach the border, they don't step forward 1 inch without permission. That they just say, hey, here we are in this no man's land between Turkey and Bulgaria. And we don't want to do anything. We don't want to enter into your country without being welcomed. We are a persecuted people. Here's our case. You guys claim that you believe in human rights, and we just want an opportunity to tell you our story and let you judge whether or not you think that we are oppressed people or not.
And that's not what happened yesterday.
That's not what happened. The world saw live on satellite television, broadcasting to the entire Middle East and North Africa and the south of Europe and parts of Asia, the physical violence and abuse that our believers had to endure at the hands of the Turkish border police. They were cracked upside the heads with batons. They were punched and kicked in the gut, in the face. Their hair was pulled. They were scratched. They were abused. They were assaulted. They were terrorized by the border police, shooting guns in the air. The women and the children, they had no idea, were they being shot at now, or what was going on?
The Turkish mainstream...
They screamed in terror, Joe.
Yes.
And the whole thing was captured on film.
The Turkish mainstream platforms are saying it was a proportional decision. It was a proportional stance that the Turkish border police, but we saw there were hundreds of police. They even called in the military.
That thing is not, that's not going to work as an excuse, because the entire thing, luckily enough, was captured on film. From the beginning till the very end, the people were peaceful people. If they weren't peaceful people, then the 28 human rights organizations, including Human Rights Without Frontiers, which is the leading European human rights organization, would not have signed on. And by the way, all day today and yesterday, they've been releasing statements and articles saying that our people had been abused, even though they were peacefully trying to apply for asylum.
Yes, and we've been talking about this. No way would an international organization post these articles publicly. This is a recognized human rights organization. They do their due diligence. They've been following these cases for months. They know they have fled persecution. They have no life to go back to.
No, they don't have any life to go back to. And I'll tell you, I'm here. Also, the main reason why I'm here today is because I wanted to update the world on what it is exactly that's going on. So the believers have hired a lawyer, and the lawyer has been sent down to the holding place where the government holding place where the 103 members are being held, including, in addition to the 103 refugees, there are 2 British journalists that are also being held over there, in addition to another believer who's a Jordanian, and his name is Basir. He's over there too, as well, being detained.
All being detained in the Derna public official safety.
And the lawyers have informed us that pretty much the 2 British people are probably going to be released with no problem. Today, the prosecutor is supposed to be over there and trying to decide whether or not they're going to press 2 ridiculous charges against them. They had said that, one of them was trying to shake a fence or break a fence, and the other one was accused of biting a guard, one of the guards, which is completely unbelievable. And our response to that was, if that really did take place, then we would love to see CCTV footage of that, or any sort of footage of that, because they strongly deny that took place, and that just goes to show the truthfulness of the Turkish police. And as far as the 103 members and also Basir, they're all facing deportation. And the problem with that is that if they are deported back to their countries, it is an immediate death sentence for the Iranians. And the Iraqis are probably going to be assassinated too. And for sure, the Moroccan and the Jordanians and the Thai and all the other nationalities that are over there are facing imprisonment for a very long time.
Because of their beliefs. Their beliefs,
Absolutely,
their beliefs
for nothing more other than their beliefs. Yeah. And so that's totally and completely unacceptable. And as the leader of the Ahmadi religion of peace and light, which has thousands upon thousands of members, believers worldwide and in almost every country on the earth, I am demanding that the governments of the world do something to stop the deportation of these people. And if they don't do anything about it, and if Turkey does deport our members to these countries and they get killed, then the blood is on their hands. And not only is the blood on their hands, but I will be forced to take a stance. And the stance that I will take is that I'm going to declare to all of my followers worldwide that from that point forward, we all have to wear our religion on our sleeve.
Yes.
We all have to openly practice our faith, even if it means death. I will encourage our members to go out publicly and declare their faith, and to invite people to the faith, and to fast in times other than what the people are saying is Ramadan, to fast in their Ramadan that they believe in, and to eat openly on the streets, and to establish worship centers. Even if they have to worship openly on the streets, they have the right to do so. And I will tell them all to do so until enough of our people get martyred and the world sees it.
And they will see. I don't think
then they get involved, Joe.
Yes.
Maybe that's what it's going to take. Because we've tried every single route that there is. We applied for visas to safe countries. The people got rejected because the standards that they made for the visas are so high. We refused to go into countries illegally, and we presented ourselves at the border legally. We faced violence, and we were beat down, and we were punished for attempting to respect the law. We attempted to contact the United Nations in Turkey. There was absolutely no response from them whatsoever. They don't even answer the phone. So if we've taken all these measures, if the leading human rights organizations around the world, they've investigated and they have declared us to be a people that are indeed in danger, if we've brought forward credible evidence that we have been imprisoned and we are facing death, and they still don't care and they still want to send us back to our country, well, then they're sentencing us to death. And then it needs a stance. It needs that our people go out there and really do get martyred. And my people will get martyred.
Yes.
And my people will be proud to get martyred for this cause, if that's what it takes, because we are true believers in what it is that we are preaching.
And I think your words are backed up by the images that we've been showing throughout this program. The believers take my house, take my children, education, take my business, threaten me with life, make me paranoid with every step that I take, but you can't take my faith. And they marched, some of them without even close to that border, to show them the persecution that they faced, only carrying your gospel, only carrying their faith with them. You saw the images, and I don't think the international community understands that that's what they will see. They will see a small genocide of people because their faith is what matters to them. They don't care if you take anything from them but their faith.
Our believers in Iran, Iraq, Jordan, Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, all over the Middle East and North Africa are willing to go out on the streets and get martyred for the sake of freedom of religion, for the sake of La ilaha illallah, for the sake of being able to say that this is who I am, without being forced to hide in their bedroom or hide, in silence. We're not going to take it anymore. So now it's either the Turkish government stops the deportation, or they're going to have a lot of blood on their hands. And it's going to be an international scandal, because every time one of these people get arrested, every time one of these people faces death, every time that Iran hangs one of these people for apostasy, every time that there's a religious decree issued against our followers by some sort of fundamentalist nutcase in the Middle East or somewhere around the world, the fault will lie on Turkey, and the fault will lie on the European Union and America, who sat around, in the West, who sat around not doing anything about it. Their laws are contradictory, Joe. It's like they tell you, we support human rights, and we would have helped you if you were in our country. Just come into our country, and then we will give you residency. We can't help you if you're out of the country. Just come to the country. You try to come to the country, you try to apply for a visa, you can't, you get rejected. They say it's because you don't have, ties to your country. Well, how can I have ties to my country if I'm fleeing the country? We walk up to a fence, or walk up to one of the sides of the country. We find a fence all around it, or a wall. We don't want to break through. It's illegal. We believe that if we did that, that would reflect not so nicely. Why would these people welcome us into their homes if we're breaking in? We don't feel like that's what we should do. And we also respect the European country and its population's money that it spent on building these fences and building these walls. They put it there to prevent people from coming in. So why would we break it and force ourselves in? The only way to enter is through the door. And yet they have agreements between them and Turkey that prevent people from crossing through. So what is it that we shall do? The only choice that we have now is to die and to make a statement. The revolution of the Arab Spring, it all started because there was a man that had just taken enough oppression. He's just had enough oppression that he set himself on fire. And that was the spark. that caused the entire Middle East to revolt. The blood of that man. The Buddhists in Tibet, in different parts of the world, how did they protest? How did they revolt? They set themselves on fire. And the West was amazed. And it caught the attention of the world. And they saw those images of those people that were suffering so much that they felt they had no other option but to set themselves on fire. Well, my followers too. We've had enough. And we too, if we are deported, are going to set ourselves on fire.
Abu Sadiq, I'd like to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for delivering this message. I know that the believers at home have taken that statement, have heard you loud and clear, and I hope and I pray for Turkey that they heed international law and they take this opportunity. They really take this opportunity in front of the international community to do what's right. Thank you.
Thank you.